I'm ready to go when you are, Rachel. What's going on, y'all? It is your girl, Brie Undeniably, checking in for another episode of my new speaker series, Deep Conversations with Dope Individuals, where we're discussing development, decision-making, and dedicating yourself to purpose. I am here with a super dope individual, but before I get to who I'm here with, y'all know sometimes I get super excited and try to do my shout-outs in the beginning, forget, do them in the end. I'm here. I'm conscious of doing my shout-outs right now. So first and foremost, shout out to Gotham Podcast Studios. They are awesome, always hooking it up with the space, the audio and the visual. Super thankful to be recording here. So if you are watching on YouTube, you'll see the space we're in. If you're listening to the crystal clear audio, shout out to Gotham. I also love to shout out MC Kicks, even though I am not wearing anything MC Kicks today. They are always hooking it up with merch for me, always showing me support. So I really appreciate them. You can find them at EMCEEKICKS on Instagram and basically anywhere else. Okay, so we are back for another episode. I am here with dope individual Michelle Gbelama. Michelle, welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So happy to have you here. So let me give Michelle the introduction that she deserves. Michelle is a youth development specialist and professional tennis coach with 12 plus years of experience and has worked with over 5,000 young people in the New Jersey, New York area. She is the creator of the course College Ready Recruit, which prepares high school students for college, improves that mental performance, and helps them secure scholarships. She is also the founder and CEO of She Leads Sports, LLC, which is an organization that empowers girls to become productive women through sports-based activities. I love that so much. We'll definitely talk about it. And on top of that, she recently started a nonprofit organization called We Lead Sports Incorporated that provides free or low-cost tennis mentoring and college readiness programs to under-resourced youths in New Jersey. Welcome, Michelle Gbelama.
Thank you so much, Brie. Thank you for having me.
I am so happy to have you here. I'm just going to slide my laptop over the side here. We won't be needing that today. So as I like to, get to know you a little bit more in the counseling community, we always like to meet our clients where they're at. It really just, as counselors helps us figure out exactly where you are and where we have to go from there. I like to do the same with my guests because I think it's really important for listeners to understand where you're at. So help us meet you where you're at and tell us a little bit more about yourself.
All right. Without going into too much details, I actually, so pretty much my introduction says it all. But I actually grew up in West Africa. I'm from Liberia, West Africa. That's where I was born. My parents were pastors, so I had the opportunity to travel throughout West Africa mostly.
Wow.
So we went through different countries building churches, building homes for those in need. So I got a chance to travel. Every year I was in a different country, in a different school, which was very interesting. I remember in third grade, we went to another country, but it was a French country. And we had to go to a French school. We had no idea what was happening.
Oh, wow.
So those were interesting times when we just we just had to go with the flow. But that was very much something that drove me, that made me who I am today. So as we traveled throughout the continent of Africa, my father had the opportunity to come to the U.S. Years later, he brought us over. After he came over and he built a church in Trenton, New Jersey, and he was able to bring us here. Unfortunately, we came a year later. He passed away. So things kind of, thank you. Things kind of unraveled from there. It was as if we were dumped in a strange land, knowing nothing, literally nothing. So it was myself and my mother, myself, and 3 other siblings. We pretty much had to figure out everything on our end because we didn't know anyone. We didn't know how to manage ourselves in the country. Our dad was here 6 years before we came in. Wow. So at age 14, I'm here just kind of trying to figure things out on my own. Along with my family, but really kind of just where do we go from here? So eventually I found tennis. When I got to high school, I found tennis because I needed to get into college. I knew my family couldn't afford college, of course. Being where we were at that point, we went through a lot of struggles with the church. I mean, the church my dad built here. We went into a lot of debt, into people suing us for things we didn't really understand. So financially, things were not great. So I knew I had to find a way to get into college or to get a better education. So one day I went to my guidance counselor in high school, and he said, "Oh, you need a resume. Why don't you go and get a resume? Put a resume together, and then come back to me." So I did what I could. I wrote down a list, not really a resume, but whatever I thought I had interest in or that I was actually participating at that time in high school. Brought a list to him. He was like, "Well, this looks okay. You're a good student, but you need extracurricular activities. You need something like a sport to set you apart." So I played tennis in PE class once or twice, and I kind of liked it. So I decided, you know what, let me just try tennis and see where it goes from there. I had no intentions of becoming anything in the sport. I just thought it would be a good thing to have on my resume. So fast forward, I decided to join the tennis team. My first time playing tennis was insanely horrible. I had no idea how to score. It was just insanely bad. And I'm a very competitive person by nature. I thought I would never play tennis again if I have to play this badly. So I need to do everything possible to become a better tennis player. So I decided to start practicing on the tennis wall. I will practice in the morning, early in the morning before school. I will practice during our regular practice time, and then after practice, I will stay and continue to hit on the wall. Of course, when you're new to a sport, no one really wants to play with you because you're not as good, you're not a challenge. So I kind of had to figure it out on my own and just play by myself until I kind of made my way to becoming able to hit around with the other players. I also got the opportunity to participate in this organization called NJTL. It's considered National Junior Tennis and Learning. Is actually a nationwide organization under the United States Tennis Association. So they are all over the country. They have branches everywhere. So the Trenton branch took me in and kind of taught me a little more about tennis. I met this really great coach who he would just give me extra lessons, and he loved African food. So obviously I couldn't afford to pay him. So my mom would cook for him every week. It's just so he can give me extra lessons. And because of that, I started to become better. And I just got into the sport. I started winning matches, winning tournaments. I started seeing my name in the newspaper. I was just like, what is going on? Coaches started to look at me like, who is this girl who never picked up a racket before?
Wow.
And now she's winning matches, she's winning tournaments. So from there, things kind of just took off, and I started becoming more invested and involved in the sport. Then I decided, listen, I can actually play tennis in college and get money for this. As the more I spoke to coaches, the more I saw opportunities in the sport, especially for African American girl. There were more opportunities in tennis because tennis was not. You didn't have that many African Americans or other races in the sport. So they were many coaches were like, we have money. We just have money here. If you decide to come, we have money, especially because you would be the only African American on our team.
Yeah.
That makes it even better. So I had so many opportunities to choose from. Luckily, I was more invested in my education because I know where I come from, and I really didn't want to sell myself short. I wanted to focus on getting a good education and making my mom proud of me. So I decided to go to a D3 school, which is not, you don't really receive athletic scholarship for, but you do get a lot of financial aid.
Okay.
So I went to a school, I studied economics. I really wanted to focus on my education. I started on the team as number 4. And I'm like, I cannot be number 4. I have to be the best.
That determination.
Just something about not being the best didn't sit well with me. So I came back the summer of my freshman year, decided to practice even more. My mom was cooking double the amount for this guy to coach me. But I would practice 6 hours a day, every day for the entire summer. By the time I got to back to college, my sophomore year, I beat everyone. Well, we had challenge matches. So I had challenged everyone, beat everyone, and I became number one. And from there, I staked number one. I started winning more tournaments, more matches. I became 2-time MVP on the team, and I became the captain of the team. My senior year, we won championship in probably 30 something years in the school history. I was actually the first woman at Drew University is where I went. I was the first woman to win this tournament called the NJAIAW, and is for all girls in New Jersey, not just D3, but all divisions. So that was my proudest moment ever, and it was my senior year. I won that tournament, and again, I'm in history at Drew. I was the first woman to win the NJIAW tournament. So
that's incredible.
Yes. So fast forward, everything really just worked out for me. Tennis became my purpose. Where speaking about purpose, tennis, I realized was a place for me. That's where God needed me to be, even though I kind of stumbled upon it, but it didn't really matter. It doesn't matter how you find it. It matters when you find it and what you do to sustain it and maintain it. So luckily, I was able to get a good education. I studied economics. I went back to grad school at Drew, and I was assistant coaching while going to school. And I got my master's in creative writing as well. Worked on Wall Street for a year and a half. I hated it. Came back to tennis. Decided I will get more involved and invested in tennis. So from there, I started working for nonprofit organizations, running tennis programs, managing nonprofits, pretty much working with under-resourced kids and making sure that they have the opportunities that I had as well. And from there, fast forward to today, now as the intro said, now I'm more invested in creating something that I know will be beneficial for those young kids who don't have the opportunity, or have the opportunity but don't know how to find it, or don't know how to market themselves. I would say market themselves to be seen by the best coaches and colleges, but also market themselves to get into a good college and get a good education. So that's pretty much what I'm about right now, making sure that I continue to give the young people what I receive and even more.
I love that. I mean, you really are paying it forward, but in exactly the way that it's like you want others to have that same opportunity that you had, and it's almost you want to empower them with that, because that's how you were empowered in so many ways. I think that's so incredible, and thank you so much for sharing your story. There is a lot of power behind what you told us about your life and growing up, and sort of how, you had a lot of family changes really quick. And then with the passing of your father, also you being in a totally new country, a totally new world, what it must have felt like. You had your development journey, so to speak, to where you're at, started probably sooner than you had planned on.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so I because when I realized that I was good at tennis, I automatically decided to start teaching. So when I got involved in the NJTL program, they had opportunities for young people to mentor the younger ones, right? So even though I was participating, I became a junior staff. So I was teaching the babies. Yeah, that was my favorite part. And of course, they say when you teach, you learn even more.
Yes.
So I was using my teaching skills to understand certain techniques that I didn't fully understand. And that really helped my game. It helped build my game. It helped me listen more to my coach, because I was putting myself in the shoes of the children.
Yes.
Right. So it just worked out so well. And ideally, because I grew up in a family that loved helping and loved giving back, it was just a natural thing for me to start teaching others what I knew. So it started from coaching the young people, and then when I graduated college, I was hired as an assistant coach to coach the same team. It was a little weird because there were some players that were on the team with me,
Yep.
and now I was the assistant coach. They're like, "Oh, this is not going to work," but it did work because they saw how well the team was when I was there. So everyone really were enthusiastic about me being around. So the development process did start early, and it was great because I had an opportunity to learn so much at an early age, which is why now I feel like I have a pool of knowledge to
Yeah.
give. And I'm able to use my personal experience to help others. It's not like, oh, I learned this in school and I'm telling you what to do. It's like, this is exactly what I went through. I lived it. I understand it fully. And the best way to teach and mentor is to use your own experience.
Absolutely. And I love that you put it that way because it really is so true. There's so much power and conviction in the experiences that you've gone through and being able to find a way to relay those messages that in an impactful way to others. They're really, it's unparalleled to teach in that way.
Right.
And you have such like you said, like super altruistic background from, seems like from when you were born, your family was giving back and doing different types of services in that way. And so it seems like it was almost ingrained in you, and then you realize like, hey, tennis is the vessel for me to be able to continue to give back what I desire to. So let's talk about it. And from listening to your story, I'm thinking that it might be like around the college time, but when did you really realize that like tennis was it for you? Like that you were about to make a career out of doing things in the field of tennis?
It was probably, I would say, when I got into college, and it was my sophomore year when I started practicing 6 hours a day. When I came back and realized I don't want to be number 4.
Yes.
Then I was like, oh, I'm taking this a little seriously than I thought. But the fact that I was able to practice 6 hours a day made me realize this is a passion. This is something that comes naturally to me. And when I was on the tennis court, whenever I was on the tennis court, everything, it felt like home. It felt like that was a way of me coping even with the death of my father, because I was able to just block out everything and kind of see him watching me in a way, like being proud of me and using that as a way to make him proud and to carry on his legacy. Which is interesting that we're having this conversation because years later his last name is still being said, is still out there. So in a small way I feel like I'm still carrying on what he started, what he taught me. I'm able to pass on to the next generation.
That's so beautiful the way that you put it too, that you feel him watching you, and it's in being a former tennis player, which you and I discussed. We have a few crossovers here, having coached as well. There is something really special about the sport, about being on the court. It's just you and your thoughts and your racket. And I can see how that can both be like a transcendent experience, but also a way for you to just tune in. Right. So I can definitely relate there for sure. Yeah. Okay, so you when you started getting super serious, you're like, okay, maybe this is something that I'm going to develop into something larger, something outside of me. So what was sort of the seed of the first business you built from this, or the first company that you started working on to do something more?
So as I said, I work with a lot of nonprofits. So I was actually hired by the NJT of Trenton to run their program department for some years. And then I later left and came to New York, and I worked for New York Junior Tennis and Learning for a while. There I ran one of their programs in Queens, and I realized I started to work more with immigrant families, and mostly families from like Guatemala, like North America. And I realized that there was a mixture between the participation of girls and boys.
Okay.
I started to get more boys in my programs than girls. And whenever I got girls, I would have them for a short amount of time. And so I started to think about it, like, what is happening here? And as I speak to the parents, they were like, well, as soon as the child becomes between age 12 to 15, they have to take responsibility for their siblings or take responsibility in the household.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
whether it's babysitting or getting a part-time job or something of that nature related to helping the family, they have to do it. So sport is not something on their radar. They cannot waste their, well, in other words, waste their time
Right.
in after-school activities because they have other responsibilities. And that really hurt me because I'm like, there were so many talented girls in my program, and it hurt me to see them leaving the program not willingly. Of course, leaving the program because that was a cultural thing, and not just North Americans, even African parents as well. It's just a thing that, and not African American girls in general. Between ages 12 to 15, there is a statistics that girls drop out of sport more than boys, and it's because puberty hits in, things happen, they lose interest, and they don't really have positive role models to look up to. So if you see in a lot of schools, you will see a lot of male PE teachers, a lot of male coaches, sport coaches. A lot of them are male. And a lot of us as women, we go through the sport, we're successful at it, but then we go somewhere else. We do something else. So we're not really there for the girls to look at, to emulate. So when I saw that, I realized that I needed to do something. I needed to start something that will help empower girls, but use me as an example to say, listen, I did this. I was successful at it. You can do it too. So from there, I decided to start She Leads Sports, which is, it really empowers girls to become productive women by providing them the opportunity to understand who they are, but also to understand their purpose, right? So the whole goal is, why am I on this earth? Like, why am I here? I was lucky to find my purpose sooner, and a lot of people are not.
Right.
So my goal in creating She Leads Sports was to give girls the platform to figure out themselves early on and to keep them involved in something bigger than themselves so they can actually become successful, productive women.
I love it. I think, like I said, that just that whole program, just the guidelines of it, the philosophy that you have. I mean, it truly is something that's not only necessary, but it seems like something that's been, incredibly productive and powerful for the girls that you have been able to bring into the program. And this was in, you said, what year was this?
2019.
2019.
Yes,
Okay.
2019, yes.
Okay. So then from there, you have since built other successful businesses as well. Let's talk a little bit more about the continuing progression of this development.
Yeah, so She Leads Sports started as like not a hobby, but I just started it based on what I knew. And I started to, through working with nonprofits, I had a chance to work with so many young people. So from there, I took all of the experience I learned from those organizations and brought it into She Leads Sports. The more I worked with young girls, I realized, and the more I spoke to parents, I realized that a lot of parents are lost when it comes to helping their kids from between the high school area to the college area. A lot of them are busy, first of all. Some parents are single parents. They have to find a way to feed multiple children. They don't have the resources, or even if the resources were there, they don't have time to sit down and figure out how to do this, because the college process is crazy. It's, as you know,
I do.
It's a mess. It's crazy.
Sure
so if you don't have that dedicated parent pushing you, it's very easy for a child to fall off. So as I spoke to more parents, I realized, and through my participation with nonprofits, I realized a lot of organizations have core programs like a sport or mentoring or something, but it's not really helping the parents. They're not really walking the parents through the college process. So at the end of the day, it's up to the parent to decide or figure it out. So from there, I realized I should create something to help walk parents through the process so they can understand how to keep their kids organized. Time management skills, something very important in the high school area. How to stay confident, improve their mental performance. Because especially for the athletes, mental performance as a tennis athlete is a big thing. Tennis is a mind
100%.
game. And that's for every sport, but mostly I focus on tennis because that's my area. Mental development is something very important. So improving their mental skills, how to compete properly. A lot of kids can hit the ball really well, but when it's time to play a real match, they're coming out the loser. And they're like, why did I lose to that person? I can beat her. I can beat him. And I'm like, well, mentally, you weren't there. So improving their mental skills is something I wanted to focus on, as well as finding college scholarships. So during my time of preparing for college, in my high school, my junior year, I applied to 100 scholarships. Literally, I had to, and back then it wasn't like now they have common apps. They have all these electronics that you can use. It was like writing essays for me on paper to 100 different organizations. And out of that, I got $51,000 before I even got into college. So I was like, I have all this experience. I did all these things by myself. Why not share it with everyone? So part of the organization is part of the program is to help get them scholarships, help them migrate through the process of getting either athletic scholarship, academic scholarship, or even extracurricular scholarship, or all three of them. Put that together and create a big package for them. So, so this program is called College Ready Recruit, and it's pretty much to walk busy parents through the process and then focus on the children as well, help them understand how to position themselves to be either seen by the right coaches or colleges, or just making sure that they get into the right college and get the best education.
You know, I'm listening to you, and I feel like I'm mapping your story in my head. And this is why I love doing this speaker series so much, because you told us your personal story, and hearing what you're doing now, everything just makes so much sense, because it's like you're identifying these gaps in places that you would have benefited from. And so because you have that personal experience in that growth piece that you carry with you, and you still see it happening now, you're like, okay, let me take what I know and turn it into something that is purposeful, meaningful, and helpful for others. So I just think, you know, kind of laying that out, and hearing your story, it really resonates, because it's so much of the reason why I wanted to do this speaker series to begin with, you know, because our personal development is so intertwined with our professional development.
Of course.
And so often we bring in, or most often we bring in the pieces from our past, what we know, what we've learned, the decisions we've made, how we have gotten through X, Y, and Z phases in our life, and then take that and apply it so you can help others do the same. So just hearing with those two businesses alone, I mean, you identified that there was definitely a gap for middle school aged females to, you know, who weren't, for X, Y, and Z reasons, you know, developing in sports or sticking with sports. And you kind of took that and transitioned it into something so much more than just sports for females, which is great. And then the college readiness piece as well, something that you really very very old school grinded out back in the day, like writing out scholarships.
Not fun.
You're like, not only do I have this experience, but I know my experience earned me $51,000 to get to college, on top of the fact that you did it in a way that's probably 10 times harder than what students are doing now. So, you know, you took that, you spun it, and you made something incredible out of it. So just had to give you your kudos, and map that out, because I just, you know, it really is, you are such a testament to the series that I'm doing. And I just think bringing people's personal development stories to the forefront just show, you know, where they are at professionally, just makes so much sense with your life story. So, okay, so we have now two businesses,
Yeah.
but there is another, correct?
Yes.
So let's go. So you did 2019 was your first one, and then this next one was at what time?
2021.
2020.
Well, when did we
2020.
Pandemic hit?
March 2020.
Yeah, so it was about July.
Okay.
Between July and September 2020.
Okay. And
Yeah.
now you have a third.
Right. So now so College Ready Recruit is kind of under She Leads Sports. It's
Okay.
just it's a program.
Gotcha.
But then I realized as I worked with individual parents that my background is also nonprofit, right? I'm all things nonprofit. I consider myself a nonprofit girl. And my goal is to help those who do not have the opportunity, right? So when I started She Leads Sports, it was I started to get clients or speak to parents that were able, which is great financially. But then I realized what drives me, what wakes me up. Why did I even get into nonprofit work in the first place? And it was to help those parents to hear stories and testimonials from parents to say, oh, wow, I didn't have any way of doing this. If I didn't have your help, I would not have been able to get here, which was my story, really. If I didn't have certain people's help, I would not have been able to get to where I am now. So I wanted to provide something that is low cost, that is affordable to parents looking for my service. So I decided to create a I don't know if it would call sister company or brothers.
Yeah.
We Lead Sports, because also part of it was a lot of male parents were like, oh, this is so great. Why can't you do this for our sons?
Got
and
it.
so I had a lot of issues with the boys, and parents felt like I was picking sides. So I'm like, okay, let me figure out how to legally help the male and female as well. So I decided to create a We Lead Sports, which is for all of us, for everybody. Yes. But more, I wanted to focus We Lead Sports on tennis development, mentoring, and college readiness. So not necessarily college recruitment, because there's a slight difference. College recruitment will be playing getting to college to play a sport.
Okay.
And then college readiness is preparing you for either college or a career after high school. So and that's more into the nonprofit area. So I decided to create We Lead Sports that will help the young people, whether you want to play a sport or not, help you understand how to get into college or how to manage yourself after high school.
I love that. I think that the college readiness and the college preparedness piece is so important. As you know, we've spoke about this, but another connection. Well, everyone on my podcast knows that I am a school counselor as well. But in my internship back when I was in grad school, I was a college counselor, and the amount of work that even I had an incredible supervisor who was the college counselor at the high school that I was working at, and it was myself and another intern working under her, and three very competent individuals, and there is no rest.
Seriously.
For college readiness,
Right.
college preparedness.
Right.
I know in that college counseling space, there's always something to do and always students to work with to help them, whether it be with, I mean, everything from, building a list, resume building, understanding what dorming is going to be like. How do you there's just so many pieces, the scholarship piece. I mean, the list goes on and on, but, the program that you're doing, I think that it's so important, especially that you're doing it as a nonprofit entity, as something that people can access in an affordable way, because not every high school is fortunate to have a dedicated college counselor, college counselor team. On top of the fact that college counselors aren't necessarily even have the capacity to do the readiness piece, when if I have a cohort of 500 seniors or juniors, plus because you have to start in the junior year or even before. It really is, the college readiness piece is never ending. So the fact that you are bringing that to families in an affordable way is, and kind of opening their eyes to that is so, so important, because I don't think that there's anyone who really, can say, hey, this is the checklist of things that you need. And that's that.
And even if they do, they will just give you a checklist as a parent and tell you, go and figure it out.
Right.
Now you're like, what am I doing with this list? So I get a lot of parents who are like, the counselors, especially in New Jersey, where the area I'm in, Mercer County, there are some high schools that are so packed that the counselor has over 300-400 kids.
Yeah.
You can't really help every kid. Like, there is no way.
And you want to know what's crazy? I'm just pulling from my grad school work, but in becoming a school counselor, the recommended amount, and I might get this wrong, but I know it's less than 150. I believe in the American School Counselors Association, ASCA, counselors shouldn't have more than, and like I said, the number is under 150. I believe it was 120 or 130, but counselors shouldn't have more than that amount of students in their cohort to be able to actually have the capacity to do what they need to do, and even that number is pushing it. But we know
these schools,
that's not the case.
It's double, triple,
yeah, absolutely.
There is nothing. We can't even blame the counselors because they can't. It's not humanly possible.
Right.
So there has to be others that are willing to take the step, or at least hold these parents' hands through the process. And if anything, just make sure the kids have some kind of direction.
Absolutely.
And so that's why I actually start as early as 9th grade.
That's great.
Because
that's
if
so
you
great.
want to get into a great school, by your sophomore, junior year, it's kind of too late, really. Because now you have to take SATs. That you can't miraculously create a fake grade. Your grades has to be up to par.
Right.
So if you don't start some parents, I know in private schools, a lot of parents start in 8th grade. But in the community that I'm in, usually I advise parents to start as soon as 9th grade. Because then you have a chance to fix things that are wrong, or find ways to create a better resume and have a better grades. And also to be able to speak to coaches if you're playing a sport, or just speak to colleges and work it out. It's a business. College is like a business. You have to negotiate your way through it. Otherwise, you end up losing out. And unfortunately, I've seen some kids who are very talented, but their parents are calling me now to help them fix their financial situation in college. And I'm like, there is nothing I can do. You've already accepted the financial package, that it is what it is. So my goal now is to prevent parents from calling me when their kids already received a financial packet and it's not what they are looking for, and now they have to pay out of pocket. So I was fortunate not to pay. I went to Drew, which was a $55,000 a year school. I didn't pay a cent for 4 years. I kind of got my debt through grad school. I don't know why. I went back to grad school, but it's okay. It wasn't much. But I didn't pay 1 cent because my scholarships, financial aids, they all covered me. I used to get money back. And just kind of pissed it off away because I didn't really know any better. But I will get refunds because I had so much money given to me. Wow. And that's my goal, to really get these kids understanding how to get there. And it's possible.
Absolutely. And I think, I love that you said you're starting from 9th grade, and even, some private schools will start at 8th. But it's like you're not... There's no such thing as a clean slate, really, but it's clean enough.
Yes.
Where you can, it's almost like a fresh start, where it's like, hey, if you're starting now, 9th grade, we start the goal setting, the projection, the idea is what might you want? How can we start working towards those things? What grades or what classes do you need to take for those types of programs? And so, I mean, there's so much.
There's so much, yeah. So I usually start them off with goal settings, as you said. And then we go into resume building and making sure they can... communication skills is important. How can you interview, presenting yourself well to colleges? Because you do have to go through that process. And then understanding the whole college process, essay writing, recommendation letters, SATs, ACTs, those are very important still, even though a lot of schools are not too key on it anymore, but it's still important.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the financial piece. And if you're an athlete, the recruitment piece, you need a recruitment video. If you're a tennis athlete, NCAA, UTR, US, so many rating systems. It's insane when you think about it, but that's why I'm here, to give you a roadmap and help you get there.
I'm just thinking back to the beginning of your story, or kind of at the beginning, where you said you went to your guidance counselor and he said you need to have a resume. And it's just so funny how that it comes full circle. Here you are, you're like, okay, so he told me to have a resume. But now it's actually, you need a resume. You need this, you need that, you need the third. So just sort of bringing that whole process full circle and making it, again, tangible for people to understand that there's so much more that goes into this than just applying, filling out an application, and that's that. So
and you can apply, but you probably won't get the best results,
right? Or
enough money, and then you have to pay out of pocket, which nobody wants.
And there, there is strategy to it. Yes. That's basically, what you're teaching is there is strategy, but the strategy is playing the long game as well. We got to start at this point to be able to get to that point.
Yep, definitely.
Exactly. Okay, so let's we've sort of gone through the breakdown. We know the story that led into you building all of the powerhouse things that you're building right now. Let's talk a little bit about sort of the learning curve or the learning process in building and developing programs like this. I'm going to kind of leave it broad and open for you there.
You should give me some questions.
Okay. I
could go on and on, so maybe you should give me.
Yeah, I can guide it a little bit more. Yes. Okay, so I'm specifically thinking about the decision-making steps to, from the point of deciding to build something like this to, what were really the steps that it took for you to say, hey, I'm gonna build this business with this intention and this trajectory. What did that look like? That's the learning curve that I'm looking for.
That was helpful. Okay, I would have gone off tangent without that. Okay, so pretty much, as I said, I first started to think hard about it. Actually, my first real job, which was working with the NJTL. So I started at the NJTL, what I did was I was in charge of the program department. So I was creating curriculums, writing grants, going out to schools and recruiting kids for the program. Okay. So when I got there, the program was doing okay. They were at, I think, 1,500 kids. But I was like, I need to do more. There was so much more to do in this town. So I would go to.
You've always had that fire,
yes.
too.
Some things are always. I can't be. Mediocre. That's not my thing.
That is a fire that burns inside of you. Some people, need to figure out how to make the fire, which is totally cool too. But some people are born with that.
Always the fire. Yeah, I don't know. It's not always great, but in this case, it's good.
Yeah.
So I would go to high school, middle schools, elementary school principals and just sit with them and bug them and tell them about the program, because we will have tennis programs, education programs, and other opportunities. And I started to use myself as an example. I'm like, well, I went to school in this town. I was that kid a few years ago. This is where I am now. This is where this kid can be in a few years. Right. And so people ate it up. They bought into it because it's true. They were like, wow, this is a great example for our kids. So they started to buy in, and before I knew it, I started to get more schools involved. And by the time I left that organization, we were at 1,700 kids.
Wow.
I'm sorry, 2,700 kids.
Whoa.
It went from 1,500 to 2,700. We were in over 30 schools. Amazing. It was, and I thought, wait, this is something. This means something, right? The passion I have for this type of work is very important. So I started to think about it, but I didn't have enough experience to really think about my own. I knew I needed to explore more. So
Okay.
as I moved to New York, I got more a larger understanding of running a business.
Okay.
New York actually helped me understand because I was given the opportunity to run my own site. So it was like everything was budget, everything I had to do. So
Totally yours.
then I started to get a lot more detail on how to run a business. And when I got involved with the girls and trying to figure out whether the girls were getting enough opportunities versus the boys, then I thought maybe I should just create a Facebook like a Facebook page and just start posting and using what I've learned, like creating curriculums to teach. Just teach that way. So I actually started a little earlier than 2019. I created a Facebook group and just started to post things.
Got it.
And then in the back end, I started to create curriculums related to what I was thinking. So like the preparing girls preparing girls to be productive women, creating curriculums around that. And of course, in the nonprofit world, there are a lot of opportunities. There are a lot of organizations that can partner with you to help you, like the Women's Sports Foundation. They're actually here in New York. I learned a lot from the Women's Sports Foundation and what they're doing for girls as well. So using their curriculum, understanding how to teach girls to become productive really made me feel like, okay, I can do this. I can totally start something small and then work my way up. So that's really how the planning process started. I worked off of what I was already doing because I was really, what I'm doing now is exactly what I was doing before. It's just now it's my own thing. So I kind of just worked off my knowledge from my regular job and like pushed it into the vision I had specifically.
Awesome. Yeah, that's, again, kind of using what you have, using what you know to then build off of that. I think that's great, though, that there was that progression there that, you were getting those skills and you were kind of seeing how the play out of a business, how it could work. And you're like, wait a second, I can do this too.
Yes.
Like, I actually can see what the pieces are here. And then, like you said, you were running your own site. So then it was all yours, so to speak. Your calls at least. So that's, it's so interesting because some people, they have that build up experience. Some people, it's just like a total.
Yeah, you have to start from scratch.
I'm gonna take off and see what happens. So I just like to kind of see how that development happens.
Well, I did do a lot of research as well. So even though I had the experience, I had to research how to sustain a business, right? How to manage a business, and also, of course, you can never do anything on your own. There is always room to learn. So I got involved in other organizations as well as I became way before I started the business. I was on the United States Tennis Association board as their vice president of development or something of that kind. And so I did a lot of volunteer work. So I volunteer on a lot of different boards to understand how to do a strategic plan for your business, how to create goals, how to create visions and mission. You can't just get up and randomly start something without a vision. Otherwise, you'll just be picking up of what others are doing. Yeah. So like the strategic planning, understanding that really helped me put my business plan together. Got it. So it's more, everybody have a different path. Like some people just have the vision and they want to go with it without the experience and they learn on the way. But it's important to put together a business plan. You can't just start something. You can, but you will probably fall off sooner than later because you don't really have a tangible goal.
Right. There's no guidance there if you don't have a plan. Like you said, like the vision, you can have a vision, but if you don't have a plan set in place, then
you will fall off.
You're right. Exactly.
Or you will pick up of other people's ideas and end up not knowing who you are.
Right. That's really true.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So we are actually getting to the winding down a little bit and getting to the end of the podcast where we've already talked about it a little bit, but I want to bring in the purpose piece and really kind of pick your brain a little bit more about purpose and what that means to you. So you have brought in passion and how tennis, you realized very early on that it was something you were passionate about. You said that it was also your purpose, and I want to dig in there and just understand a little bit more about what purpose is to you, and then sort of bring everything full circle, how you've used that and what you've done.
Yeah. So for me, like, of course, I didn't understand purpose when all of this was happening. I just thought it was something I liked to do. But as I got older and started to mentor others, I realized that purpose is something that, of course, comes naturally to you. It's something that others see as difficult or hard, and you just find it to be very, very easy.
I like that.
And that's what happened with me. Like, going to schools, talking about building young people was something I enjoyed so much. This is something my colleagues will pass on to me because they didn't want to do that part. They just wanted to stay in the office, and I was excited to run tournaments, to run events, and speak to parents. And it was like not like work.
Right.
So I realized purpose is something that is not work, that you can do 24/7. And still feel like you have more energy to do.
I love it.
And that's what I realized purpose is. And that's why I was able to continue to push and create multiple programs, multiple organizations around the same vision, because there's just so much, there are more avenues I saw opening as I created one. There was another avenue that opened, and that's what purpose is. And I strongly believe in God, and I believe that when you are centered, purpose is an alignment to God. It is something that aligns you and makes and it allows God to work through you, because we're all put in this. We all have purpose. We're all put on this earth to fulfill something, right? So if you wake up in the morning, that means you are supposed to fulfill something on this earth. So it's something we should not take for granted. Waking up in the morning like, oh, whatever. That means God still has a plan for you, and there's a purpose you need to fulfill. So for me personally, whenever I'm closer to God, I see the alignment happening. I see myself aligning into things that I would never imagine.
Right.
And like you said, my story really, now that I'm even speaking to you, is a little shocking to me, because I know my story and I've heard it before and I've talked about it before, but the way you've put it makes me understand that, wow, this really is like a circle. Like, from the time I was born to where I am now was all aligned. It was all a plan. So this just proves that God has a plan for us, and every experience we go through it's part of the plan.
Yeah.
Right. So even some difficult times and some things that are not so great, like losing my father, at that point in time, I didn't see it as a great, as a purpose building experience, but it led to my drive. It led to my passion. It led to me pushing harder, because who knows, maybe I was babied by my father. Maybe I would have been lazier with him being around.
Right.
Like, oh, daddy's girl, I don't need to do much. He can do whatever. But not with him not being there, I had to push. A passion came over me that would not have happened probably if he was around. So every negative experience builds you. It takes you to the next level, and it aligns you with what God has planned for you.
Yes. Thank you so much. That was a beautiful answer, a beautiful definition. I got chills in there. I mean, genuine. And we've said it over and over, but it really, like I said, hearing your story, like you reiterated, you see that circular piece, how everything in your life has brought you here. And it's all, that waking up every day, if you're here, it means you have something to fulfill. And I love that piece that you brought to it, because whether or not you are someone who is spiritual or religious, there is a reason. There is a reason. And I think that, regardless of who's listening and what their, denomination might be, if anything, you're here for a reason. And everything that you said resonates so much with my own sort of crafted definition of purpose, which I have spoke to my listeners about, which is passion meets people, or the people can be, anything transcendent or outside yourself. So it could be nature, it could be animals. But when your passion, when you have that fire inside of you for something, and you can do that thing for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, how to bring that to others so they can experience it in the same way that you experience it. And so, just with the programs that you've developed, it's so clear that that's what you've done. And that you're continuing to fulfill that purpose and that meaning in your life. So thank you for
Thank you
everything
so
that you're
much.
doing and for
Thank
bringing
you.
that definition. I think you really brought some power
You.
with those words for sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so we are getting to the very end.
Yes.
This is where we'll do a rapid fire round.
Sure.
Super quick, this or that, just for fun.
Okay.
And then I will give you the opportunity to say, leave our listeners with any final words you'd like to. Let them know where they can find you, and we'll close it out.
Sure.
All right. So, rapid fire round. I said we're talking about 3 things. We for sure hit on development, decision making, and dedication to purpose. We're going to bring it back in this rapid fire round. So, the first one is development. Currently, are you working more on personal development or professional development?
I think both, I would say. I think they go hand in hand.
They do.
Without personal development, and you cannot be. It's like you can't pour out and not have someone else pour into you.
It's so true.
I'm definitely working on both.
I see if I can like trick guests into giving me one or the other. Not that it's a trick. You can definitely be working on one more than the other, but they do go hand in hand.
I would say I'm working on more personal development
currently.
Yeah, currently,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's the new year. You know, it's the start of the year. You want to build yourself, have enough fuel before you can actually give it out.
Yes.
So definitely.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. The next one, decision making. Do you feel like you make more of your decisions based on choice or guiding voice? Choice meaning you're a definitive numbers girl. You kind of just go with what you know. Guiding voice can be spirituality, gut feeling, anything else of the sort that sort of pulls you to decisions.
Definitely guiding voice.
Guiding voice.
Yes. I'm a very, I won't say religious, spiritual person. I'm a prayerful person. Of course, coming from a home of both pastors, but also I have my own relationship with God. So everything I do has to be clear. Like it has to be confirmed. I don't make decisions just based on numbers. I make decisions based on where I'm driven, my gut feeling, that that random coincidence or circumstance that makes me see, oh, this is actually a confirmation from God.
I love that. I love that you said it has to be confirmed. I think that's a really beautiful way to put that.
Yeah.
Okay, the last one, dedication to purpose. Do you feel like that is a singular moment in time or a daily practice?
It's a daily practice, definitely. There is, if anyone says it's a singular, like, please let me know how you're doing it. It is a daily practice because all of what you do, I mean, if it's purposeful, it's not gonna. You're not always going to like it. You're not always going to want to work with that client or wake up in the morning or do whatever it is. You might have the passion for it, but it takes work. It takes intentionality. You have to be intentional about what you're doing, and intentional will get you to your purpose and it will help you become more successful in what you're doing.
Yes.
But definitely it's not.
Definitely
it's
a daily
it's
practice.
a daily practice.
Got it.
You have to build yourself every day. Tell yourself every day.
Yes.
You can do it.
That's it. Yeah, this is what you're here for. This is what you got. Yeah, it's almost like you got to pump yourself up daily.
Right, and especially the days you don't want to do it, you have to say it's okay. You can do it. Just get up one day at a time, 1 hour at a time, and just get there. Just start doing something, and then you'll get into it.
So true. Yeah. Okay, we have reached the very end. I want to give you the floor or give you the mic one last time. Sure. Leave listeners with whatever you want to leave them with as final words, and also let us know where they can find you.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. This was really great. I'm really glad to be here. Overall, really, as we've spoken about everything I do and everything I'm about, but what I want to leave parents more is to understand that even if you're in a difficult situation, if you have multiple children or even if you have one child and you're struggling and you're overwhelmed and you don't know how to help your child, there's always another way. There's always someone you can contact. Try not to do things on your own because we're put on this earth not to be alone, and we cannot succeed by ourselves. So if there's anyone in your neighborhood, in your community, your church, wherever you are, there has to be somebody that you can speak to and just try to be vulnerable a little bit to people, because a lot of parents I speak to are so overprotective because they've gone through so much. They need to protect their children. They need to protect their information, and that's okay. But also, if you protect yourself too much and you don't let others in, there is no way anyone can know that you need help. So definitely, wherever you are, find somebody to confide in, and find an organization to have your children participate in, or speak to somebody in the school. I know there are so many good people out there that are looking to help young people progress and succeed. So definitely open up a little bit and know that your child can do it too. No matter the circumstance, no matter what you're going through, if I can get through it, anybody can get through it. I know that for a fact. So continue to stay encouraged. Continue to know that you're doing the best you can as a parent, and that is all going to be okay. Just continue to push a little more.
Thank you so much. That was a great way to end it. I hope everyone really hears those words and the power in them. Okay, Michelle, just let everyone know where they can find you.
So I am on all social media platforms. It's at Michelle Gbelama. So it's Gbelama. It's not Obama. So at Michelle Gbelama. You can find me on my website, sheleadsports.com or weleadsports.org. You can also email me at info@sheleadsports.com. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, even TikTok now, I think. Don't go on TikTok. Just look for me on Facebook and Instagram. You don't want to see what's on TikTok. But yeah, so email, usually it's easy for me, info@sheleadsports.com or info@weleadsports.org.
Great. And I will be sure to put all of that information into the show notes as well and into my posts. So if you would like to see Michelle, find out a little bit more about what she's doing, what her programs are, want to reach out to her, then you will have all that information there for you.
Great.
Michelle Gbelama, everyone. Thank you
God. Thank
so
you so much.
much.
I really appreciate you.
Genuinely, thank you. And as I end all my podcasts, until next time, let this be the moment.